Hi, Low No Nation, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Low No Drinker podcast, bringing you the people, places, and brands leading the low and no alcohol revolution. Today, I am talking to the lovely Mr. Billy Wright, the founder of Decem 10% Gin. Now, Billy has been on a journey of many miles with this gin, and his desire to create something for gin lovers who want the same experience but without the alcohol. He's all about flavour, he's all about taste, and today we're going to be discussing Billy's own journey, the launch and relaunch of the brand, why Billy believes that moderation is to be made interesting, and what could possibly be next for this MasterChef finalist come gin spirits distiller. So I'm really excited to be speaking to him. Hello, Billy. Thank you for joining me today. How are you doing, my dear?
Hello, Janine. What an intro. Thank you very much. Yeah, brilliant. Amazing to be here and lovely to chat to you. So yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Well, thank you for joining me. When I got the email, because I'm on your mailing list, because
Yeah.
we did meet a while ago, didn't we?
We
Actually,
did
Billy,
literally probably a year ago to the day, not far off, just as you were
yeah,
launching this fabulous magazine and now podcast. So yeah,
yeah,
it's been cool. Lovely to meet you and
yeah.
chat again.
And I must say thank you, because you were one of the first people that I had met and sort of come into contact with in a professional capacity. And not that I particularly know what I'm doing now, but a year ago I had absolutely no idea what I was doing. And you were so nice to me. And I thought, oh, okay, if I'm going to meet people like this, I can maybe get through in this world.
Well, I think we're all muddling through. In all honesty, I'm still not sure I know what I'm doing. So yeah, no, we're all in the same boat. When you do something new and no one's really done it before, it's always a step into the unknown, isn't it? So no,
Absolutely.
you're doing a fab job for the space, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, my darling. And you have done some fantastic stuff, and I want to hear all about it. And I want the watchers and listeners out there in Low No Nation to get to know you, because one of the things I always say that I'm trying to achieve with Low No Drinker is not to convince people to drink less alcohol. It's not to scare them away from booze. It's just to show that there are options out there for however you choose to live. And yours is exactly one of those products that sits in this new mid-range that we're experiencing for people who still want to imbibe and still like the taste of their favorite tipples, whatever they may be, but just want them with less alcohol. So before we get into all that nitty-gritty, tell us a little bit about you, because like I said, you've been on a heck of a journey. You've lived a life and a half, Billy, and it's taken you through this wonderful product.
I did turn 40 last year, and I am slightly feeling it now. But then I do have a young son as well to contend with, so he's making me look even older. I blame it on him, but no, it's been.
They age us. They do. I'm 44, and honestly, my two young kids have aged me a hell of a lot. I'm with you.
So I'm more in need of the mid range and the lower level stuff than ever I was before, in all honesty. So yes, no, where to begin on my journey? So I suppose it all really starts with not really being able to drink that much when I was younger. So I've always been in search of a lower level drink that I can continue to drink at the same rate as my friends do without me falling over. So I can't really drink much beer, so that was always an issue for me as a teenager and then going into young adult life. Fortunately, smartphones weren't around when I was younger, because otherwise I would have been in trouble. So yeah, the days of people taking the old little cameras out, and I still managed to get pictures of me. They probably are on my Facebook profile of me asleep in nightclubs. So yeah, that did happen. It happens less now. I mean, I can't even remember the last time I went to a nightclub. But anyway, I digress. So I've always been on the search for a drink that is sessionable, that is tasty, is flavorful, and it just wasn't really a lot out there. So I've drunk a lot of Campari spritzes, Aperols, etc. And I enjoyed them. Don't get me wrong, I still enjoyed them. But there was nothing that was really British of the same nature. So that's where the whole idea stemmed from. And I created Decem, or the idea came in the summer of 2019 after finishing a game of cricket with my mates, and they're all on the beers and I'm on the Aperols and getting a bit of a ribbing. And we were like, well, can we not make something that's like a little bit more A, British, and B, not as fluorescent and a bit more natural. And so we were like, yeah, why don't we try and do it? None of us had any experience of working in the drinks industry. I obviously have a slight food background, so sort of flavour I understand, and because of being in that space, I knew quite a few people in the industry. So I had a few chats with people, and they're like, well, I probably should have turned around then. They said, yeah, don't go into it faint-heartedly. It's a tough old industry. So we were like, no, we'll do it. Sod it, let's go. So anyway, that's where the idea really stemmed from for Decem, was to create a British aperitif. So that's where we started, and we made it. We made it with developed it with two amazing guys, Matt Wiley and Rich Woods, who are two of the best mixologists in the land, on the planet actually. So, and we created it, and it was brilliant. It was mega, and we were so pumped about it. But then when we tried to commercialize it, we just went round the houses, and it was just so expensive. And then we ended up sort of cutting corners. And because of all this time's elapsing, obviously the big C's are creeping closer that no one knew about. And so COVID came and we hadn't launched. So we were sat there with a liquid which we liked, but I think in hindsight, looking back, it was always going to be a difficult sell because it wasn't quite right. Anyway, so during COVID, we were all sat on our hands going, well, we've got a liquid finish, we've got a brand sort of developed. Everyone's complaining about drinking too much white spirits at home because we're tucked away and we're not having a great time of it. And we've made this liquid at 10% because we were sort of benchmarking against Aperol because they're 11. So we were making a lighter drink anyway. And my business partner, who's the brains in the brand and the marketeer, said, well, can we make a gin at 10%? So we were like, well, I don't know, can we? Let's do it. So we did. Then we made a rum, and then we finally got to market in beginning of summer 2022. So quite a long time after the first idea. So that's a fairly lengthy explanation of the first few years anyway, that we did get to market. So I mean, we did more than I think the people who in the drinks industry I went to for advice gave me credit for, or we could actually do and get to. So to actually launch, and with three, I mean, in our heads we were like, well, we've got three liquids, so I mean someone must like one of them, but it sort of just ended up being very confusing because you've got two liquids that are imitators, as in the rum and the gin, and the other one was an aperitif which was very standalone. So it was all quite confused. So yeah, we then decided after 6 months and of me doing a lot of hustling and banging on doors and getting knocked back, and it was very polarizing, the liquids. People either very Marmite, they either loved it or hated it, and we were like, well, we can't have this. And then we took on a bit more advice, and they were like, Billy, you've basically done, now narrowing down to the gin, because obviously we've relaunched with that. So I'll just talk about that. That was our biggest seller as well. So we got our heads together, right? Yes, the gin market overall is potentially decreasing in size, but it's still way bigger than the others. So it's like, yes, let's focus on that. Let's try and make the best 10%. I'll do the gin, because obviously we're not allowed to call it gin. In case any of the gin guild are listening, I don't really, it's G1N. But we decided to concentrate solely on that to make it the best possible liquid and a proper imitator, so that when you try it, you go, wow, that is literally like Tanqueray, Beefeater, all of the London dry gins that people know and love, but just at a lower level. So yeah, sorry, that's quite a waffly long way around of saying how we got here, but it has been, as I've just said to you all, it's been quite a long journey to get to the point that we're at now.
Yeah, so, it is. I mean, these things are never just a straight line, are they? There's always hurdles and twists and turns. And, you know, first of all, hats off to you for that great British resolve. You know, if people are telling you it's not going to be an easy, you're going, well, bugger it, I'm going to do it anyway. You know, that's the innovative, creative, fighting British spirit that we have, that leads us, so many in this industry, to creating these amazing drinks that solve problems for people trying to find this new way of drinking. So just to clarify then for those who may be new to the brand, so you initially launched with 3 different liquids. So you had a gin, a rum, and an aperitif.
Correct.
And again, as you said, we're not technically using those names because they have to have a minimum ABV to meet those standards, but you had alternatives for those drinks.
Yes. And we also had 10 ingredients, so it was the name Decem, for anyone who doesn't know, means 10 in Latin. So that's where the whole brand identity sort of came from. We were going to go, down the road, 10 ingredients, name of 10, 10%, everything around 10. And it just all got very loud and very noisy and very confusing, and a bit. I over gilded the lily as such with the gin, especially. I made it something that I really liked, which is really quite out there. It was quite bitter, herbaceous, savoury, and I remember when I was sampling a place, and people were like, well, so what gin does it taste like? And I was like, well, it doesn't really taste like any. It tastes like ours, because I thought making it unique is what would stand out. But actually, we're trying to convince people to drink lower percentage. We don't need to convince them to drink a different flavour profile as well. So in my head, originally we were like, we'll make it unique, we'll make it stand out, then everyone will love it. And apparently, so my now advisors tell us, is that's what a lot of new gin makers try to do. But actually, what the majority of people want is heavy juniper with a bit of citrus, because that's what they know. So yes, if you're Tanqueray, Gordon's, you're well established, you can obviously then build out the flavour profiles. But the initial one, the most, if not all, are built on is a classic London Dry. So that's where we went back to basics and now have.
Yeah. And it's difficult, isn't it? Because yes, people like what they know. We are creatures of habit. It's very hard to get human beings to change their habits. So yes, if you're getting somebody to start drinking less, or you're giving them an option to drink less, it's drinking less of something that they already know and are already comfortable with. But at the same time, we're always talking about how we want something new, and we're bored of the same old, we want to try something different.
I know,
so
but then actually when it comes to it, I know, but that when you actually come to it, people realise actually the grass isn't always greener sometimes. And you're like, actually, I'll just stick to what I know. I mean, how many times do I go into my favourite restaurants and go, I'm going to try something different, and I'm like, I just wish I stuck to what I had or what I always go for.
Yeah.
But you've got to try these things new. But that's the whole. I said we're going to come onto the market in its entirety, but that is the issue that we're facing, right? It's the fact that we're trying to teach people a new way to drink and new products and new things, and people are saying, yes, we want to moderate and want to do that, but to actually take mass adoption, to actually get them to do that and then continue doing it, is the continuation is the hard bit. So
yeah, absolutely.
We've just got to be here for another 10 years probably.
Well, you like the number 10, so that's fine.
Well, exactly.
It is. I can only imagine the challenge. I mean, I'm marketing a very small, low ticket item, trying to get it out to many people. I have the unique advantage of being the only magazine that does what I do the way that I do it. And often in business, it's said sometimes it's better to be the only than to be the best, because you can differentiate yourself. But when you're in a market that is brand new, like this mid-range and low alcohol market, there are so many different elements to consider when you're trying to get something out there. So I can only imagine the myriad of thoughts and challenges that you must have gone through, particularly when you had to decide to take a step back and completely pivot on what you were doing, because surely that must have been, you've made a huge commitment before and you want to keep that going, but you need to pivot it completely. How did you even come to make that decision?
Well, we had to raise some money to do it, because ultimately these things cost money. So we managed to bring on some very good investors who got behind the thought of completely rebranding and changing it and going again. And without them, we wouldn't be able to have done it. So thank you very much to our investors. And I'm just so pleased that we did, because now I can stand up with one product and go, this is exactly what it is, this is exactly what it does, and this is exactly what it's for. And the flavour profile just continues on that, and the clarity of thought just makes the conversations much, much easier. Like when you have three liquids that are completely different, that sit in different places on menus, and as you well know, the no and no sector is evolving sometimes on a daily basis, especially in the on trade. But just having three just basically really confuse matters. So and also for the consumer, I think, to really understand what we are and what we're about. And now, I've waffled on from the question you actually asked me. Why didn't we pivot? I mean, I think we had to as a business. I think if we didn't, I don't think we would be here now, in all honesty, because I think as a small business, you have to try things out, and you have to try and fail quite quickly if you're going to fail. Otherwise, you've got to have very deep pockets to keep going and keep going and keep going. I mean, ultimately, our biggest marketing tool is really the product, and if the product's not good enough, then it's always going to be an uphill battle. So yeah, we either had to call it a day or change, and we've changed, and we've done everything we can now, and things at least I think as a product and an image and an identity to give us a platform to really push on. So yeah, there was no, it was actually quite, once we had the backing, it was quite an easy decision to make.
They do. They say that, don't they? So in business, the advice is to fail fast and fail forward. So
Yes.
figure out what doesn't work, get it out of the way, and move on to the next thing, which is what you've done. So let's talk about that then, because I have
Yeah.
a lovely bottle
Yes,
just
I can
here
see it. I
behind me.
saw it on the back of your shoulder. It's looking
Of
good.
course.
First time I've seen it on camera, I think.
There we go. So hopefully
Yeah.
the light reflects on that well. I will put up some product shots as well for the those watching on YouTube. So this bottle, obviously I saw your original bottles and
Yeah.
I've seen this one, and it's beautiful. The other ones were lovely, don't get me wrong. This is gorgeous, isn't it?
We did. That was probably one of the hardest things, is that we did get some good feedback from our original bottle in terms of looks, but it just wasn't doing enough in terms of saying what we are, how to drink us, and like some of just case in points. Like I spent a lot of time in some of our stockists and doing like training and doing sampling, and then I go in like 3 weeks later and they'd be turned around. So we didn't have a front and back label, as you know. We had a wraparound label, so that was also something that we had to change. So we've definitely gone more classic in terms of front and back label, made it more fun, enticing, and labeled it with really what it is. So hopefully it's more understandable of how you drink it when you drink it. So yeah,
And you worked with an artist, a New York-based artist, to create the labels.
Yes,
amazing.
Yeah. My art knowledge isn't great, but fortunately my business partners are. So when we were talking about how we wanted to rebrand it and what we wanted it to look like, so our audience is mainly female. So we were like, well, we need to get some female input because we're an all-male team. Well, now we're not, because our advisors are female and our drinks innovator is female, so that's good, because we knew that we needed to get some femininity on board to help us find the right path and produce the right product. So yeah, and we wanted something fun, we wanted something enticing, something different, something that stands out, and I think she's absolutely nailed it.
Yeah, absolutely. And for anyone interested, I will put a link, because I went and checked out her website and her art is absolutely amazing. I'm not an art connoisseur, I don't know anything. But what is that? I may not know art, but I know what I like, and the pictures look really nice.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, they're just so fun and really brings things to life. Like yeah, so yeah, I think
that's important, and I think there's a few brands out there that do that really well. Betivo is one of them. They worked with a professional artist to create a world really of characters, so that when you are involved in the bottle, you're involved in this world and you're really brought into it. So it's not just a label that says the name on the front and the ingredients on the back. There's a character and a personality to it.
100%, and we use them a lot in sort of like our benchmarking, because they rebranded, they changed their bottle, they changed their look after a year, I think, maybe. So yeah, they've got great liquid. Goes very well in the white Negroni with us, actually. I think if you're looking over the weekend, yes, if anyone's got this in your leg. So yeah, no, we do use them a lot in terms of like how they position the brand and how they look like, because they're all about flavor as well. So and it's good liquid.
Excellent. So talk to me about the flavor then. So tell me about the gin. Obviously what's in it in terms of how it presents and how it's best drunk.
Yeah, so heavy juniper, coriander seed, angelica root, orange lemon peel. So really 5 classic gin ingredients, gin botanicals, and amazing as a gin and tonic. Or I love it because it's my favorite drink in a Negroni. And a white Negroni, as I just said previously. But I think it depends what you like. We've had some interesting feedback. So for me, if I'm drinking martini, I'd probably go just have one full fat martini because I like martinis. But my wife, for instance, cannot stand them and doesn't like normal Negronis because of the alcohol burn and just the bitterness. So having it with us, it just makes it the flavour stay there, but a bit more mellow on the palate. So she actually really likes it. So I think it's opening those stronger drinks up to a different type of drinker who sometimes wouldn't necessarily go for that type of drink. I had some lovely feedback from a guy who actually I sent the first bottle to. So somehow he randomly managed to buy an old bottle that we had, even though we didn't have any left in stock. So I had to send him one for the first batch, and he sent a lovely email back saying, "I tried this with my wife, who doesn't like gin and really likes it." So yeah, so there you go. So yeah, I would normally say any sort of gin based cocktail, and you want it. Maybe you want to drink 3 or 4 of them. Maybe it's a nice summer's day, and you're like, yeah, I'd love a load of Tom Collinses, but obviously can't drink them all with 40%. So that's what we're here for.
Amazing. And you've got some recipes on your website, haven't you, for different drinks, different cocktails?
Yes, yeah. So we have, we've pretty much on the website so far just stuck to sort of basic ones. So like a gimlet, which is quite an old school cocktail, but again, really nice, a martini. And I think Tom Collins is up there. So yeah, very ones that people will know. So to just substitute, we are actually going to be working on some more sort of mixology type cocktails, if you like, a bit further down the line. Maybe something to do in my sort of, that's where my food led background, I suppose, comes in sort of making things sort of a bit unique. But that's definitely for later down the line when people know who we are and how to use it first and foremost. I think primarily for me it would be in a G&T.
Keeping it simple, keeping it classic,
going
with what people know and giving them that alternative for something that they normally go for. You mentioned earlier on that your most of your customer base is female. How have you been finding it in terms of communicating and what you're getting back from your customers? Obviously, we spoke earlier on about, getting lots of positive feedback, and it tastes absolutely wonderful. How are people finding it, or what are you noticing about this new mid-range that you find yourself in? Because you've gone for a 10% spirit.
Right.
I said earlier on this year that I think that the mid-range is going to explode over the next couple of years. I think there's just going to be so much more. But it's really
I hope you're right.
I am. It's all right. Like I told my husband, I'm always right. But the challenge that a lot of people mention or bring up is people understanding how to use mid-range spirits and how much to consume and where that sort of puts them on, you think about how many units you're having, so you know that roughly a pint is maybe 3 units. Or and how are you finding people are really moving to you in that mid-range area?
I think first and foremost, I think there's a huge issue with people actually understanding percents and what's in what and what a unit means. So I think that's something that the government could probably do with a bit more heavy lifting on that, in all honesty, which I think obviously the no and low sector really needs in terms of them clarifying what actually low is and where it sits and how much is how much. But I think for people who get it, just really get that it offers them more options. It's all about, for us, for the mid-range, for me, it's all about options and choice and giving you that in different times of day. So whether it's midweek, say you've got kids and you've had a bit of a bad day on a Monday and you're like, oh God, I could probably do with a gin and tonic, but it's Monday, I probably shouldn't. And then I'll just pour myself a Decem and that's fine. And then it just eases you down and you've had 0.5 of a unit, which is next to well, considering you're allowed 14 units a week, it means you can have 28 drinks. So that's a fair old amount. So yeah, I think that, as I said previously, the feedback from the one who wouldn't normally drink gin is now thinking, well, I can drink it. My wife as well, who's like, oh, well, I wouldn't normally drink Negroni because I don't like the strength of the gin. It now opens it up to people with maybe less bitter palates, or obviously just don't want the burn of alcohol, but also want some form of like the stimulation and the elixir that you do get from alcohol. So yeah, I hope I've answered the question there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. How are you finding it? Are you doing a lot of on-trade with Decem? Because obviously I know that you love a bar. When you had your pop-up download bar last year, which was absolutely amazing, and I'd love to know if you're doing more. But entering the on-trade is a huge task. It's a mammoth challenge. Is it one that you've taken up the mantle with yet, or are you not quite at that stage?
No, that's our biggest focus for this year. So the on-trade is our real focus. So we have just partnered up with an amazing new no and low sales agency. So if there's anyone else out there starting a brand and wants some help, they're called Core, Kore, and they've just started up as well. So they've got background from various different areas, and they specialize in no and low. So I'm working with them to get us out and about into the right places, so we can test and learn and create new cocktails with supremos from behind the bar. And yeah, so it's super exciting. Yes, there's a lot of challenges. Distribution for one. It's like you go into a bar and they love it, and you go, right, who do you distribute through? And we go, well, we're in conversation with X, Y, and Z. But it's like, well, come back to us when you've actually got that. And then you go to the distributor and go, well, how many people have you got? So it's very chicken and egg, but it's all part of the game, and you just have to play it, and you just have to keep going and persevering, and patience and a smile is what I tell myself on a daily basis.
Oh gosh, yeah, absolutely. I know I'm aware of Core. I know they haven't been going for very long, but I absolutely love what they are doing. I think it's amazing having a company like that is dedicated to getting drinks in our sector out to as many people in the most professional and widespread manner possible. So I think it's great that you're partnering with them, and I will make sure that they are noted in the show notes so people can go and check them out.
Yeah, you should probably get them on the podcast. Get Ben on the podcast. Although you'd probably need about 3 hours with Ben. He likes talking.
Does it? Okay, that's great. I'll just sit back and let him go.
No, they're great. We're getting some really good traction. We've got some really exciting listings coming up. So yeah, no, it's
fantastic.
It's been good so far, and hopefully that continues in that vein. So
fantastic.
Yes, keep an eye out for us on the bar menu, London wide, hopefully.
Yeah. Soon. And then on the flip side of that then is I was chatting with Rohan from Quarter last week, and I asked him this question. I'll put it to you as well. So in the last issue of the magazine, there was a debate feature on mid-range spirits and where they belong in the supermarkets. So one side was saying that they don't belong in the no and low section because they're above 1.2%, and people may pick them up and be confused. The other person was right from the point of view that if they're in the full strength spirits range, then people who are looking for a 40%, 37.5% beverage may pick up a 10% and feel shortchanged, and they're not getting their full their full whack. What's your thoughts on where a mid-range spirit like yours should be placed in our supermarkets to make life easier for consumers?
That is such a tricky question, because it is very much a catch-22, as everyone's just said. I mean, in an ideal world, you'd have your own shelf, but I know how scarce it is in shelf space, and there aren't enough products yet to make your own shelf space. But I do agree, no and low for me will split out, because at the moment, no and low is majority alcohol-free, right? You go into the nice, I think it's blue flagged in Waitrose, and I think they have 2 out of like 30 products which are probably low, and one of them is their cider, and I think another one maybe is a cider. And then you've got all these wines hitting the market as well, between like 3 and 9%. So where do they sit? I guess, do they sit with the wine? I suppose they do, because there's more of them, but it's so tricky. I would probably position as closer to the no and low section than I would the full strength section. But the only reason I'm saying that is because we're closer in percentage to low than we are to full strength. Unless you move everything that's in sort of 20 and below into one section. So then you've got all your aperitifs, you've got like your sherries, you've got which I actually shop quite a bit for, because I cook with a bit of them, and I'm like, where do they live here? And they're somewhere hidden in the spirit section, but they don't really have their own section. So maybe if any supermarkets are out there, it also depends on what we call it, right? At the moment, we've got no low, and then there isn't actually a section for everything else. It's just everything else. They'd say have the no alcohol-free, mid-range, full strength, or however they want to label it. But I do think that it needs a bit of work from probably the people that sell it, actually, because they'll probably know how it sits best and how many products they have in that range. But that's what I would probably try and convince people to do, is have a no, have a mid-range, and then have full strength. But
I think it harks back to what you said earlier on about the government needing to pull their socks up in terms of figuring out what terminology we use, making these laws rather than just guidelines, so that people understand that this is what you are supposed to call something that has this percentage, and not whether it's been de-alkalized or not, but just what the alcohol content is in there. And that is the first step, I think, into people being able to understand what it is that they can be drinking, no matter what their reasons are for the choices that they make. And then you're right, I think more work needs to be done. I think it's going to be a team effort because, as I say, this mid-range is going to explode. You know, there's wines coming out, so bigger producers are trying to do lower alcohol wines. The changes in the taxes mean that more producers are going to be wanting to do low ABV, so they don't pay as much duty on it. People are looking to moderate more, so consumers are going to be calling for more mid-range, whether it's a wine or it's a beer or it's a spirit. I do think it's at the stage now where it needs clarification, and people need to be able to go into a supermarket and be able to look on the shelves and know, right, if I'm looking in this section, I'm going to find this type of drink. Because having to pick up a bottle and look for the ABV, when a lot of people still don't understand even what ABV is, let alone what a unit is.
No, I know.
You know, I often say, I worked 24 years in bars, and I still couldn't tell you the ABV of a cocktail once it's been mixed, or a G&T once it's been poured. So the average person is not going to understand that either. So I think as this category grows, what would be good would be to see brands and supermarkets and the governing bodies coming together in the beginning, rather than waiting until everybody's really confused, to set out some guidelines and say, this is how we're going to treat these products, this is what we're going to call them, this is where we're going to put them, and this is what brands need to do to be able to use this terminology, instead of just letting everybody go out there and best guess everything.
Correct. No, definitely. But when that likely to happen, I'm not sure. But I mean, with the way that the government works and snail's pace, but I think whether we all and I was chatting to another low and no producer the other day, and we were talking about whether we could create some form of mid-strength guild or mid-strength, just sort of like something whether we all come together and shout from the same hymn sheet and say, right, we're all I don't know, well, 1.3% to 20%, let's call it, and anything in between. So that's whether you're beer, cider, spirit, wine, aperitif, whatever. We're all trying to guide and move in the same direction. I don't know. It was a thought. I mean, it's probably more work than any of us all need on our backs and trying to do our own stuff for our own brands. But I also think if you're shouting together from the same hymn sheet, it just shouts louder, right? It just lands with more oomph. So it's something that we are discussing in the background.
I love that idea. I think that you're absolutely right. It's again, we mentioned Petit earlier on. They've recently created the Makers Alliance with themselves, and I brought
that up during the meeting actually, and said these guys have done that. So for them, we could do similar. So
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's it. Brands like you and founders like you coming together to say, let's all stand together and say, this is what we want to create, this is the quality and this is the standard and this is what we want to be able to give people. I think that it just brings everybody together and it just makes life easier for everybody. But you're right, it will be a lot of work on the way there. So good luck with that.
Bit of lobbying. Just add that to the list of stuff that I need to do. It's fine.
Well, there you go. Well, look, you've got this platform now, so if there is anybody out there who wants to, jump on board and help Billy and others create this guild of mid-range makers, let's get it happening.
Yeah, let's do it. All is.
Fantastic. Listen, Billy, just a couple more questions before I let you go. The most important is, where should people go to find out more about you? Where should they go to buy your wonderful gins?
So decemdrinks.com is where you can buy direct from us. We're also stocked in a lovely new spirit shop in Berry Brothers. If you haven't been, you should go. It is incredible. An amazing range of no and low, real nice range of no and low, but also obviously and everything else in between. So they're the two main places at present in terms of retail. Obviously little indie shops around London, and then keep your eye out for bars and restaurants and us popping up in well, the sections that I negotiate where we go to, hopefully a cocktail, but hopefully,
Yeah.
on the main list somewhere, whether it's the no or low or gin. This is also the confusing bit, but yeah,
Yeah.
keep your eyes on any menus.
Absolutely. And should we still keep our eyes peeled for your? You had a branded. Is it a mini that
Yep.
you take around town?
Yeah, so the mini is quite old and quite leaky, so it's been undercover for the winter, but it's soon to be coming back out. I'm looking forward to getting back in it, and it passes MOT, which is great. So
Great.
that's nice. So yeah, it's ready for the summer, as I'm sure all of you, I'm sure you are, and all the listeners, and I know I'm looking forward to the summer anyway.
Oh,
So
can't wait.
yeah, definitely keep an eye out for the mini. I'll be dotting around town, dropping off bottles here and there. So yeah, it's fun to drive.
Fantastic. And speaking of summer, my last question for you, Billy, is one that I ask everybody who comes on the podcast. So cast your mind forward a few more weeks, because I'm looking out my window and it's not quite summer yet. But you're on your way to a barbecue. You're going to enjoy some lovely, whatever barbecued foods that you like outside in the sunshine. And you're taking along a couple of low, no, or mid-range drinks with you. Other than the amazing Decem,
Yes, I was going to say,
course.
obviously, I'll be taking a bottle of Decem, obviously, at least one.
Absolutely. What other low, no, or mid-range drinks do you like to enjoy when you're not imbibing full strength?
I would take two with me. One no, we'll start with a no. I'd take a bottle of Real, which is I've just tasted for the first time. They are part of the core portfolio. And we did a great group tasting, and I just thought it was delicious, and could easily see people sipping away at that over a barbecue. Obviously, that's zero. They're going more back into the mid-range category. Shandy Shack, I would definitely take a few tinnies of those, because they, if you remember, they were on the bar menu that I did last year, and that was my first introduction to them as a brand. And I hadn't had a shandy since I was a kid, and I was like, yeah, this is brilliant. I love it, and the flavors and the difference in flavor profiles, and they're just superb for the barbecue weather. And then obviously round it off with a few Decem and tonics, and I think that's a nice little barbecue menu you've got right there.
That is. Shandy Shack's really good, actually. I came across them at an event I went to months and months ago, and you see Shandy, you're like, oh, okay, Shandy.
Yeah.
And you think that sort of thick, cloying,
sweet, over sweet as well. Like, it's just all sugar, and actually it's not.
It's not. It's so good. It was so light and refreshing. I thought that's really good. I was really impressed with that. It's a good choice there. That is amazing. Listen, Billy, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been really interesting talking to you and finding out about the journey of Decem. I'm really proud of the way that brands in our space, we just keep fighting. It was a challenge, and it was hard, and I can't imagine how stressful it would have been to recognize that you needed to make such a big pivot. But for you to pull your socks up and to just go, do you know what, let's just get on with it. Let's do what we know we need to do, and to keep going strong. I think it's amazing. So well done, you.
Well, thank you, Denise. Thank you for your kind words, but thank you for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've loved chatting to you, and we've got to keep fighting the good fight for the no low category, right, in the mid range.
Absolutely. And one more shout out to the Guild of Mid-Range Makers. We're going to make that happen. Working title.
Working title. I need to work on that. But keep an eye out. And anyone who wants, have a chat with me. I'm always available.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Billy. Take care.
Cheers.